I am excited about this brand new book being released June 22nd. It's called Killer House by Nugent, and it details how her dream home almost literally killed her and her family, and why it had to be torn down completely to the ground. She's told me her personal story about this, but I cannot wait to read it in detail. And Shemaine is here right now to give us a preview. Shemaine, thank you so much for being with us. Shemaine, I think the first and most obvious question is, what was going on in your home?
Well, we didn't know what was going on in our home. We just knew that I, for one, was getting sicker and sicker. I had debilitating migraines. Neither Ted or I could sleep. Our son Rocco started having asthma, and we never had those problems before. Meanwhile, I'd go to dozens of different doctors, and nobody could tell me what was really wrong. And at that time, Gina, I was actually named Detroit's most physical female. I had my own aerobic studio. I was teaching 12 to 15 high-intensity aerobics classes per week. I was eating clean. I should have been the walking poster child for health and fitness, and yet it got to a point where I could barely walk up a flight of stairs.
Wow, insane. And why do you think it is that doctors didn't know what was happening, Shemaine?
Well, unfortunately, my doctor, my neurologist, happens to be in Naples, Florida. He's retired now, but it's New York Times bestselling author Dr. David Perlmutter. And he talked about, and it's in my book, his quote is in my book, that, there are a lot of good doctors out there, God bless them, but a lot of them regurgitate what they learn in medical school. How much time is spent on toxic mold? Not much at all. So they just dole out medication to try to make you feel better when it's actually making you sicker and causing you other symptoms. So in my book, I detail how you can clean your body out from the inside out. And I talk about the functional medicine I use, the natural remedies I use to get healthier and ultimately happier.
Yeah, you and I have talked about this a lot off camera, so it's kind of hard for me to even find myself in this interview. But the cause turned out to be mold. I think most people would think if they built a new house, right, with all the new stuff, you wouldn't have problems like toxic mold. How did you figure out that's what it was?
Well, Gina, we actually lived through this. This was 20 years ago that this MTV Cribs home, we found that there was mold growing between the walls. We had it tested 3 times. 20 years ago, nobody was talking about mold, so I was kind of a pioneer in this realm. But getting to the point about building a new house, do you know, we went to the builder of our new house that's just a couple of years old. We told him what happened to us, and we said, build us a house that doesn't leak. He said, yeah, I'll do that. You know what? We had 4 water leaks before we even moved in. It's because of faulty building. It's because people don't care. There's some good builders out there, like there are some good doctors out there, but many of them take too many shortcuts, and it will destroy your life.
Now, is everyone allergic to toxic mold? Or is it just some people have a special allergy? Because I can tell you, like, I know that, one particular house that I lived in, I know it had mold. There was mold in the walls. There was, and it never bothered us that I knew of anyway. So how do you know if you're somebody that's maybe sensitive to it, or maybe some people are just immune?
Well, there is a gene, and they call it I don't know if I could say it, MFR gene, MTHR, and I write about it in my book. People who are predisposed to having that, and honestly, I talk about some personal stories in my book, because if you are, let's say somebody says something to you that's awful, or you lose a job, or you have, the loss of a loved one, emotionally, that affects your body physically. So the emotional symptoms that I had endured prior to getting sick set me up to get sicker. So all of us are allergic to certain types of mold, the number one killer being something called Stachybotrys. There's 1,000 different types of mold. We eat cheese and, we eat mushrooms and things like that. But that type of mold, there are 4 main killers that should not be in your home. And if you have a porous substance, water infiltration, and a lack of ventilation, Gina, you will have toxic mold within 72 hours.
And it doesn't just go away. There's no way to remediate that except for demolishing the home?
Well, no, you can remediate it, but with us, what happened is nobody knew what they were doing. So it took us so long, almost a year, to try and find the culprit. You find the water leak, you destroy, you stop the water leak, you dry, 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 get rid of what you need, and I go through detail list of what you need to do if you do find toxic mold. But the number one best thing is to find a remediator who knows what they're doing. And unfortunately, there's a lot of scammers out there. But in my book, I detailed the list. Don't worry, you don't have to destroy your home like we did, but you do have to be aware because, you know, if you think about it, even you and I talked about dogs, and you saw the antler in my background and asked me to send you an antler for your dog. Our dogs have 100 times greater sense of smell than we do. So their noses are to the ground all the time. They could get sick from this too.
Oh, that's a scary thought too. Protect my fur
Yes.
babies. I have one sitting over here in the chair in the studio right now. So Shemaine, there are really two issues in this book, it sounds like. One is the mold issue itself and maybe identifying it, maybe recognizing symptoms, maybe recognize precursors that can set you up for it, that kind of thing. The second one is how you got better. This is a huge part of the book too. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I used natural alternative remedies, or what they now call functional medicine. 20 years ago, I was doing vitamin IVs, oxygen, infrared sauna. I have an infrared sauna in my home, and I do it almost every single day. So I talk about these things, certain things in your diet, and things that you might not think about, but fabric softener, chemically scented candles, and potpourri, and chemically scented. You know, if you have a cleaner that says fresh mountain air scent, it's not fresh. It takes me so long to grocery shop because I look at the labels, I read everything in the ingredients, and our pharmaceutical industry has infiltrated the food and drug industry, and they're trying to kill us in one way or another. And it starts with being healthy and what you put on your body and in your body.
Yeah. My son, my youngest son, by the way, the other day said, Mama, I need you to order me these toothbrush things. And they were like these little sticks. I'm like, I'm not ordering you sticks to brush your teeth with. He goes, yeah, you have to, because there are microplastics in toothbrushes and they're toxic and they cause all sorts of cancer. I'm like, holy moly. I'm tired, Shemaine, I'm tired. I just want to be able to buy the stuff and order it. And yeah.
And then we have to deal with chemtrails and the pandemic and this kind of, it's constant. And when I travel, it kind of sets me back a few days, but we have to be diligent. And I think now is a good time. Nobody wants to go to the doctor. So there are simple things that I list that you can do in your home. Look at your space around you. Look at what's toxic. Are there chemically scented candles and toxic Febreze? And do you use Downy fabric softener? Those things can give you headaches, flu-like symptoms. And I go through a detailed list, Gina, and it's sad but true. A lot of these things, including toxic mold, can even cause cancer. Don't mean to scare you.
But some of the, yeah, no, I hear you on this, and it is terrifying. But some of the things, especially when you think of how that's hitting a baby, for example, not even just a dog, but the tender skin of a baby and how they absorb everything. But some of the things you can do, though, that are maybe proactive, like using vinegars to clean. I know that. Using essential oils. I use those all over my whole world, and everyone knows it. That knows me. They're like, Mom, please, the eucalyptus, it's a little much. But, you know, those are some of the things. Are there other recommendations you have that are just simple and cost effective for people?
Yeah, like cleaning your vegetables with baking soda and water. You know, they're putting, it's amazing that it costs extra for us to get produce that isn't infiltrated with chemicals. And, we have to go natural. It does cost a little bit more. Or you can just be diligent. I'm growing my own garden. And Gina, I'm a bow hunter. I'll send you venison whenever you need. But that really does make a difference. And I think there are a lot more people who are returning to our roots and living off the land. And it's so important now more than ever.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Although I would talk to my husband about starting a garden, and there's just we have a lot of shade in our yard, which we also love, and so these things are complicated. But it sure is this homesteading is a huge thing. In fact, homesteading was one of the suggested. You'll love this for Charlie Kirk's recent Turning Point event that I spoke for. Homesteading was one of the recommended things that we talk about in growing our own food. So I do think it's catching on, especially with the younger generation. Is that what you're seeing?
Absolutely. So many more people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. Nobody wants to go to the doctor these days. So you can plant medicinal herbs for yourself. I have chamomile. I make tea out of it. I have mint. I have herbs that I use when I'm cooking. And why go to the grocery store and pay somebody else to get your food for you? And during, the shutdown, we never thought about starving. We live off the land. I do enjoy traveling and eating out. I really follow an 80-20 rule. 80% of what I do is clean and healthy.
Yeah.
20%, I like chocolate chip cookies and cupcakes.
Oh, me too, girl.
Pizza
me too.
And
well,
wine.
Shemaine, we are so looking forward to this book and learning a lot from you. And we're so sorry for your experience, but so glad you came out so victorious. The book is titled Killer House by Shemaine Nugent. And we appreciate you being with us and going to all this work to inform the world of what you know. Shemaine, thank you. God bless you, my friend.
Thank you, Gina. God bless you.